In this second screencast, we're going to take a look at how Scene Builder was used to create the table layout that we saw in our application. We'll see how we use Scene Builder, and we'll take a look at the controller file that it generates for us, ready for us to customize for our particular situation. I have already created a new project. This is a Maven Java project. Do not, in NetBeans, select Maven JavaFX project. This was set up for JavaFX 2.2. We're working with JavaFX 8, and there are some differences. It's easier to start clean without any pre-generated code for an FX application. The first thing I'd like to do is create my FXML file. So I go to the root of the project, I right mouse click, and I say New. Now, I may already have, in this case, empty FXML appearing here, but if I don't, I just pop over to Other, pick JavaFX, there we go, empty FXML, and I go Next. What do I want to call it? Well, it seems to me Table FXML seems like a good idea. It already recognizes that there is a package FXML in the project. This would be the standard location, the default. I can say Next. It wants to know if we want a Java controller created for us. FXML files must have a corresponding controller. A controller may be responsible for more than one FXML file, but there has to be at least one controller per FXML. Use Java controller. It's suggesting a good name. We just need to give it a package. Shows us our existing package. And from here, I'll simply tack on controller. And I say Next. Now we're asked if we want a cascading style sheet. Using CSS makes designing applications in FX, well, makes it fun, makes it a breeze. Creating one here will give you an empty CSS, but it will remind you that you want to have one of these files in your application. And we can say Finish. When we're done, well, here we can see what our FXML file looks like in its raw XML format. As you can see, not much here. If we go and visit the controller, again, not much here in the controller. But Scene Builder, not only will it allow us to design our user interface with drag and drop, it will also generate the basic outline of a controller. And we'll actually use that to replace the contents that NetBeans has created. Oh, I should point out, you'll notice that my message bundles are here for the application. Message bundles are property files that contain a key and a value. I have a default bundle, I have a Canadian English bundle, and I have a Canadian French bundle. I'm going to double-click on the table FXML file to activate Scene Builder. Here's Scene Builder ready for us to use. By default, it shows us an anchor pane. Because our intention is to have a menu, we're going to select a different pane, and that's a border pane. A border pane divides the screen into 5 regions, and the top region is where menus typically appear. So I'm going to select my anchor pane over here. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to delete it. And now we have nothing. Above the hierarchy, we can see the different controls and containers available to us. I'm going to grab border pane, and you can see a little hand appears. Hold down the mouse, and I'm going to drag the border pane onto the screen. And when I let go, There's my border pane. It now is the top level of the hierarchy, and I can see that I have 5 regions I can work with: top, left, center, right, and bottom. I said I wanted a menu. So I actually have a tab specifically for menus. This, by the way, is called an accordion menu. Interesting name. So we'll open up Menu, and the first thing that I'm going to need is a menu bar. Oops, I'm looking at it here. I don't see the menu bar here. Let's pop over to Containers. Oh, not hiding in Containers. Controls. Ah, there's my menu bar. I know you may expect as a teacher that I have memorized where absolutely everything is. Well, bad news, I haven't. And so I go hunting. Do not just say, "Ooh, it should be here, it's not here," and give up. Go hunting. You'll discover some interesting controls you never thought of. So here we go. There's my menu bar. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to take it onto the border pane. And notice how the display has changed to show me the 5 different regions. I'm going to let go, and I have a menu. You'll notice that the menu already comes with 3 default menus: File, Edit, and Help, the 3 most common menu items that one finds in an application. If I open up my menu bar here in the hierarchy, I can see the 3 menu items: File, Edit, and Help. If I open them up, I can see that File has a close item, Edit has a delete item, and Help has an about item. For the moment, we don't need the Edit choice, so I'm actually going to remove it by selecting it, right mouse clicking, and saying Delete. Now all that I have left is File and Help. For now, we'll leave the menu. We'll come back to it shortly, but it's time to put the table into our layout. So let's look for Controls again. Ah, there we go. There we have a table view. So I'm going to pull the table view over, and I'm going to place it into the center. By placing it in the center, it will fill all the available space if there is not any controls in the left, the right, or the bottom. I let go, and now I have a table that fills. It also comes by default with 2 columns. We, of course, will want to change these columns to match the table that we'll be creating for my fish. I'm going to open up Table View here in the hierarchy, and we can see Table Column C1, Table Column C2. Well, I don't want either of them. I'm just going to delete them. So there goes the first, there goes the second, and now I can pull my table columns from the controls into my table. So there's my first one. In this particular case, I'm representing a particular type of database. The fish database has 12 fields. Therefore, I will now create 12 columns in my table view. So I've got 1 in place. Here's another one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, I don't see them. Well, we'll get back to that in a moment. 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to expand Scene Builder. I'm going to fill the screen, and I'm going to expand my border pane. I'm selecting it, And now I should be able to, whoops, pull it out. I've got to get to the right place. There's my border pane. There's my little blue arrows there. If I drag it out to the side, we'll see that I can see more columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good, I can see all my columns. The final size will be determined in our code. So I've got my table, I've got my items here. Problem is, I'd like this to be internationalized. I also don't want every column to be called column X. Scene Builder allows me to interact with my message bundles from within this tool. In general, you want to create your message bundles before you use Scene Builder or do any other user interface. Here's where that pencil and paper makes a great tool for planning. To associate a message bundle with a FXML file, I go to my Preview menu, Internationalization, and I have a choice called Set Resource. Set Resource pops up a file that allows me to select the message bundle that I wish to use. I know my message bundles are in the root of resources, and I'm going to pick the default bundle. Remember, all of these bundles have the same keys. So when this application runs on a system defined as French, the French text will appear, or in English, the English text. And if the particular language of the system doesn't match Canadian English or Canadian French, then the default properties, which, because I'm English speaking, will also be in English, will be used. Now that I have associated the message bundle, I'm going to go around and change the names of things to come from the bundle. So I'm going to start by selecting my file. So I have my menu file, and in the text box here, when I place my cursor over it, you notice at the very right there's a small little circle. It actually looks like a gear if you have a super high-res screen. I'm going to select this, and you'll notice that I have reset to default, but then I have reset to internationalized string. I'm going to select that. And now it says %key unspecified. Well, here's where I need to know in advance what my keys are. In this case, I know that for the File menu, the key is File. Press Enter, and notice that you still see the word File there because this has been retrieved from the message bundle. I'm going to select the Help item. Select it over here, and I'm going to change it from the text to an internationalized string, and it too is going to be the word help. I now want to change the menu items below it. So I have close, and close again is replaced internationally with the word close. And our last menu item is about. I select about and switch to internationalized string, and now I can type the word about. If you'd like to see how it's going to look, or possibly look, at any time, if we go to Preview, we can say Show Preview in Window. If I select this, it shows us our application. And if I pull down the file, I see the word Close. If I pull down Help, I see About. This proves that internationalization is working because internally these are being stored with the key. It just so happens in English, the key and the value are the same. I'll close this, and now what's left is to name the individual columns. I'll do that without you watching, and then I'll come back and talk about what's been done. All our columns now have an internationalized name ready for us to use. Our next step is to give each of the columns an FX ID. FX ID becomes the variable name in our controller file. We are going to bind, in other words connect, different columns to different fields in a JavaFX bean. So we need to give each of these columns a name. Selecting one column at a time, there's ID. I go to my code item, and under FX ID, I enter a name. I'll call the first one ID column. I'll call the second one common name column. I'll just go ahead and do the rest, and I'll come back as soon as I'm done. I have just two more items that I need to name. These are the Close menu and the About. If I select Close, over here in its code section, I have the FX ID, but I don't need to give this a name. Rather, I'm only interested in the event. What happens when you select this menu? So in the box that says On Action, I'm going to type the name of a method. I'm going to call it Handle and Close. Remember, we always want our method names to be verbs rather than nouns. We keep nouns for variables. Next, I select my About. And again, its action becomes Handle About. If I want to preview this again, under Preview, Show Preview in Window, I can see my design. We don't worry about the widths of the columns. They'll be taken care of in code. We can see the items in our menu. However, although we've listed a method for the purpose of an event, the method hasn't been written, so nothing happens when we select the item. With our design in place, we're ready to look at the controller. The first step in working with a controller is to associate the controller file that NetBeans created with this FXML. We can do this by going down to the controller accordion. We open it up. We can see here that we have a folder that says controller class. Here we must enter the complete path and the file name. Let's look at NetBeans to remind ourselves. There it is, com Ken Fogel table FX demo controller. Well, I'm never going to remember all of those letters, so I'm going to hit F2, which selects the text, normally because I use this to change the name, but I'm using F2 so I can do a Control-C. I can save that text. I just have to remember the rest of it is called Table FXML Controller. I'll go back to Scene Builder. In the controller class, I'll right mouse click. Oh, can't do that. Let's try Control-V. There we go. There's all that text I couldn't remember. And then I know it's called Table FXML Controller. Great. The name is in there. And press Enter to make sure it's registered. Now I'm ready to ask Scene Builder to generate my controller file. I go to View, and under View I have Show Sample Computer or Controller Skeleton. I select this. Let's open it up a bit, and we can see that it has now generated a file. It shows us all of the FX IDs. In this case, they're all the different columns, and it also includes my handle about and my handle close. this is what I need to build my controller. I can ask to see a little bit more, a more complete, a more best practice controller by selecting Full and Comments. So this now shows us a little more information. We have comments to remind us what everything is, and it even provides us with an initialize method. The initialize method is, as it says in the comment, called by the FXML loader because constructors in controllers are not particularly useful. So I like this better than the simple version. I will select Copy. I want to remember to file save my FXML, so I don't have to do this again. I'm going to go back to NetBeans. I'm going to open my table FXML controller. I'm going to select the entire controller, and then I'm going to paste what I copied from Scene Builder. Now I have a controller set up for JavaFX 8 rather than FX 2.2, and I'm ready to now start coding my user interface. This is the end of this screencast. We'll go back to the original desktop standard and examine how it was coded.